Disney Channel is something many kids my age grew up on. There were good shows like Good Luck Charlie, Phineas and Ferb, and Wizards of Waverly Place. These shows are what Disney Channel is known for. When I think of Disney Channel, I usually think of these shows. One other thing Disney Channel is known for is their original movies, or DCOMs. There are good DCOMs and there are really bad DCOMs. This month I watched 30 of them. Now, why would I do that? I don't know, because I wanted to, and now I have an excuse to make a new video. I spent all this time doing this, writing reviews and stuff. I just wanted to talk about it and make a video about the stuff I noticed as I was watching these movies. Now I'm going to talk at least briefly about all 30 of the movies, but I won't be able to get into a lot on all of them because I'm not making a 3-hour video. You wouldn't watch a 3-hour video, I wouldn't film it, so here we are. As I was watching these 30 movies, I noticed that there are pretty much 4 distinct categories when it comes to DCOMs. First of these categories is the musical. Second, you've got your normal movies. Third, you've got your TV show turned movie. And fourth, you've got Halloween. Yes, it's a whole category. Let's get nostalgic. In my opinion, there's nothing more iconic or more nostalgic than a DCOM musical. If I asked you to name some iconic musicals, DCOMs or not, the first few I would probably hear are the High School Musical movies, Camp Rock, and even the Cheetah Girls. Now, these are some of the most iconic, and it's not just because they're DCOMs, it's because they're musicals and they've got something a little extra. The DCOM library is stacked with musicals. In fact, the 30 movies that I selected, 14 of those were musicals, which just goes to show the volume that I watched and is in the library. I started this whole ordeal by watching the High School Musical trilogy, and I realized High School Musical is one of the most iconic trilogies for a really good reason. Not only does this movie pack a powerful nostalgic punch, it also has a very good structure from each individual movie to the next, as well as a whole trilogy. That is an important part of what makes a good trilogy and not just 3 good movies that are stuck together. Each movie is fun and it has relatable storylines, albeit playing out in a college-sized high school. It does creative things with how it exaggerates its characters to make evidently clear what the movie is trying to tell us, the audience. Something important for a High School Musical would, in fact, be the music. And this movie does a great job with its music. I mean, who doesn't hear the music even now and think, this is an absolute jammer? The structure of this trilogy is very unique and interesting. It almost plays out like the actual high school experience, and it helps tie these 3 movies together. You're watching these characters grow up and go through high school. It really helps complement the arcs based on how the movies are structured. There are 3 major beats that you can kind of pick out. One is the love story / sports beat. One is the summer / fun beat. And the last beat is worrying about the future. The Troy and Gabriella love story, as well as East High Wildcats, are pretty easy to point out as the focus of the first movie. And this is done because you're trying to represent the beef of what high school is. High school is sports, it's love, it's all these dumb things that in 20 years won't matter, but at the time they're a big deal. And that's a part of what the high school experience is. And this first movie nails that, and it puts all of those beats together, and that sends you on your way for your trajectory to get to the end of high school. The summer fun beat is emulated really well by the second movie. The second movie obviously centers around summer break, but I think a lot of it's applicable to summer, winter, and spring break. These breaks represent times in high school where you're not in school, but sometimes you're still pursuing friendships and relationship with those that you know from inside the high school walls. We also see love story and the basketball side of things more subtly continued in this second movie, so we can continue to see how these different beats are going to mesh by the time we get to the end of the trilogy. In the third movie, we see a beat that has been subtly introduced throughout the movie is, what the heck are these guys going to do when they graduate? Because high school is an end-all be-all for anybody, hopefully. So you're going to college. Where are you going to college? You can play basketball. You're going to do the musical. All of these things have been brought up subtly, and now they're taking the center stage. And we still see our fun beats and our love story and our basketball beats and all of those beats that were bigger in previous movies. Now they're taking more of a back seat, so we can see this very influential and important part of this experience, which is, what are you going to do next? You had a great time in high school, but you can't stop there. There's so many different ways that these kids could go, and it really helps effectively cap off the trilogy. High School Musical, chef's kiss. Can't Camp Rock 1 and 2 are iconic in their own right, and they have a lot of fun with this idea of a musical summer camp at a way bigger scale than your typical summer camp might be, and they've got the good music and the good cast, and it all works really well. Teen Beach Movie is another one with great music that's an interesting twist on the Romeo-Juliet type story. It's kind of meta about how that structure is because it's them being inside of that movie. It's very effective meta storytelling. Cheetah Girls, although a little older than some of these movies, did hold up really well, and it's an iconic girl power movie, and the music is also great in this one. Sharpay's Fabulous Adventure. Where did they come up with this idea? I have no idea, but it wasn't a complete waste, and Ashley Tisdale did a great job, and the music was pretty good, and the story was pretty good. It wasn't a necessary outing, but it wasn't a wasteful outing. So I think that for what this movie is, that worked really well. Pixel Perfect. This movie was a surprise for me. I will be the first to admit that. It's a little older and I didn't really know what I was getting into. I didn't really know what it was about, but it offered a really interesting and fascinating look at what a superstar singing AI might look like. As weird as that sounded, I was really digging it by the end of it, and it was a pleasant surprise. Another trilogy that may not be as iconic as a High School Musical trilogy, but probably a close second in terms of the DCOM, is Descendants. Whoever came up with this idea deserves a medal. I mean, it's so simple. It was sitting right in front of everybody's faces, and somehow we didn't see it. And then along comes this show in the world of reboots and remakes, and they did something with old characters that actually felt extremely original and unique. You follow iconic villains, children, such as Maleficent's daughter and the Evil Queen's daughter. You see them try to integrate into the normal society as they have been outcast because of what their parents did. It's a telling tale of good and evil, and it works really well. It plays really effectively with these good, evil themes, and it talks a lot about how people can overcome things despite where they came from. These themes all work really well along with the creative idea of these supervillains' kids. And you pair that with a good cast and good music, you get something that's fresh and original and very entertaining. Last and certainly not least for the musicals, and by not least I mean literally the best one, Lemonade Mouth. I don't know about you, but for me, Lemonade Mouth hits all of the right notes. Pun intended. Lemonade Mouth assembles an interesting crew and throws out the biggest bangers in DCOM history. I'm talking Turn Up the Music, Determinate, More Than a Band, and so many more. I mean, every song in this movie is a banger, full stop. Lemonade Mouth is a beautiful tale of friendship and high school edginess. And did I ever think I would use that as a description for a movie? You bet your ass I didn't. Nearly everybody can relate with this story, as it is a very effectively told story, and it is really an underdog story for the little guy, and it is perfect. I'm telling you, man, it's amazing. It packs a surprising emotional punch, and it's so well organized. For me, it goes down as the best DCOM in history. For lack of a better term, the next category is called the normal movie category. These are just DCOMs in a variety of topics that are organized in your typical movie structure. Just because these movies are normal movies doesn't mean that they aren't as iconic as some of the others. Jump In is all about doing your own thing and making your own path, and it's got some great themes, and Corbin Bleu does a good job in the lead. The double dutching was pretty cool to watch, but I think that this movie got boring some of the times, but I think it was a good, well thought out movie, and it had good themes, and it was entertaining enough. Look at the Irish is trash. I didn't want to rip into any of these Disney movies because I really didn't think I would. I thought at least most of them would have some value, but my God, this movie is awful. That's all I really got to say. Smart House low-key predicted the future. Kind of creepy if you think about it. Pretty good movie though. A little scary in hindsight, I guess. Wendy Wu, Homecoming of Warrior. Wendy Wu finally saw Brenda Song get to have her lead role, which she had been doing supporting roles for years, and she finally gets to shine through, and she does an awesome job with this movie, and the story is there to back her up, and it's a pretty solid movie overall. The two best normal movies, in my opinion, are Minutemen and Sky High. Sky High is a well-crafted and unique superhero story. Nothing like it came before, and nothing too similar has come after. It assembled an awesome, unique cast and put its unique story to work. It's got a lot of exciting and a lot of thoughtful moments. It's a very rich movie. It remains iconic to this day because of its unique story and its great storytelling as well as its awesome cast. It's undeniably fun, and it's an excellent example of everything that a DCOM should be. Minutemen, to me, is something that may be a little less popular than Sky High, but to me, I think it deserves just as much credit. It's a great story for the little guy, but it also offers an interesting turnaround on that, like what happens when the little guy becomes the big guy. The lead trio is just excellent excellent. They have tons of charisma and they help really push this movie forward. This movie's story is told very effectively, and I think that it is structured really well, and it has some good twists and turns, and I think as a whole the movie is very entertaining. Like I said before, TV shows are probably the most iconic part of Disney Channel for most people, and that would logically have led to the development of DCOMs based on these iconic TV shows. And these DCOMs based on these TV shows have led to some of the most iconic DCOMs. Started with two I probably didn't think were that great. I'd say the Even Stevens was probably the worst of the bunch. It wasn't awful like Luck of the Irish, but it didn't have anything going for it really. It really was the Walmart brand Truman Show. I mean, there were so many beats that were ripped tit for tat in this movie that it really just got kind of weird. Another one that wasn't great was the Sweet Life movie. I remember liking this movie as a kid, but it seems that I have remembered something incorrectly. Nobody I knew hated this show, yet somehow this DCOM completely dropped the ball. I can admire what this movie was going for. It absolutely went for it. But what it went for was kind of dumb, and it really didn't lead to a very entertaining movie. Unfortunately, it didn't hold up well because of this. Kim Possible So the Drama is one of the two Kim Possible movies, and it is the one I watched this month. This movie has got all the action and excitement we grew to love from the series. We get to see lots of Kim Possible, Ron Stoppable, Dr. Draken, and Shago action, and it all works really well. This movie's downfall is that it really is just an hour and 20-minute long Kim Possible episode. There are so many things that this movie could have done with this exciting idea of a Kim Possible movie, but instead it kind of just made a longer episode, or maybe like a multi-part episode pushed together, which you can't really fault them for that, but there could have been a bigger risk taken and they could have made something even better. Good Luck Charlie, It's Christmas. This movie is pretty entertaining and it uses its cast very well. I think that as a whole, this one is pretty solid, and the fact that the cast is utilized well and it doesn't just feel random, but still kind of does something new, I think works really well for this movie. The Wizards of Waverly Place, the movie. A tale of forgotten memories and what happens when you're a dick to your parents. This movie, like the Good Luck Charlie movie, has a good entertainment factor and it does use its cast very effectively. I think that the story is the strongest part of this movie. It went for something kind of outlandish, but it really stuck it and it didn't make it weird like the Sweet Life movie, but it didn't stick to the norm like the Kim Possible movie did. It had good excitement and good emotion, so overall I think it was pretty solid. Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension. Now, I love Phineas and Ferb. It's probably my favorite show growing up. I didn't even realize it then, but now looking back, I think that that is the case. This movie may not be the best Phineas and Ferb movie because the new one that just came out, Candace Against the Universe, was a little bit better. This one's still pretty solid and it uses its cast effectively, which is all you can really ask for a movie like this. The story ramps it up, and although it doesn't exactly stick the ramping up of the story, it does work at least enough to make the movie solid. I can hear you now. Halloween, a whole category? What am I thinking? Well, it's my video, and there are a lot of Halloween DCOMs, more so than I'd say Christmas or any other holiday. So I think that it has earned its own category because of this. The only Halloween movies I watched were the 4 Halloween Town movies, so this isn't as much a Halloween section as it is a Halloween Town section, but the idea of this Halloween genre that I just made up kind of applies to these movies, so it works. Who cares? Halloween Town 1 and 2 are an excellent pairing. Stories bounce off each other pretty well, and I think that they're both mesh pretty well tonally. They build this new Halloween Town world very well, and these are some of the first DCOMs, so they're very old and kind of set the tone for what a good DCOM is. It's a little out there, but this out there nature of the movie is really benefited by how simple the storytelling is, and it doesn't overcomplicate things it doesn't need to, so that way it can have more complex world building while you're kind of just enjoying the world and enjoying the story as it unfolds. And both of these movies do that very effectively, and that's why they're kind of paired together when I'm talking about them. Halloween Town and High was an interesting turn for the series, to say the least. It kind of got pretty complicated and it was a little out there, more so than it probably needed to be. But I think that it did work enough to make it a pretty average movie that is benefited by nostalgia, so probably a little more than average. It doesn't stay as simple as the first 2 movies, but it still works pretty well. Halloween Town Returns. This movie is bad, and it tarnishes everything the series was going for. And I'm not being dramatic. Okay, maybe a little dramatic. There is no simplicity, and there are too many logical errors. It takes both of the things that Halloween Town had going for it, and it kind of just doesn't do them anymore. It doesn't seem like it's actively trying to sabotage this. It just seems that they got too big for their britches, and it just didn't work. Our lead was recast, and it was a very poor recasting, so that kind of took away from the experience as well. This awesome and iconic series, just like this month for me, ended with a pretty bad movie. Well, that about sums it up. Thank you for taking this journey down memory lane with me and enjoying this nostalgic trip. What's your favorite DCOM? Let me know, comment below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.